So I became a gastroenterologist because I've always been obsessed with food and the interaction of the digestive system. Even as a kid, when I was in elementary school, I would, in my lunch, I would bring celery sticks and carrots and stuff. And I've always loved cucumbers. I'd head into my parents' greenhouse and eat cucumbers right there. So I've always been, interested in clinical nutrition and the impact of our, nutrition on our digestive system. And then in med school, that went further with physiology, and then subsequently in residency, during my GI rotation, I just fell in love with procedures. So I found that gastroenterology was a good wedding between clinical nutrition, the digestive system, and procedures, which are actually a lot of fun. So that's why I became a gastroenterologist. So not consuming cannabis myself, it's strange to think why I prescribe it. Well, I have a friend, a close friend that does consume cannabis, and he was telling me some of the health benefits of cannabis. So then I was looking at my patients. I've always been, I'm a person that digs very deep for my patients. I always ask about sleep, exercise, and diet, on top of having a frank discussion with medications with my patients. So I've always been looking at ways to help my patients lead a better quality of life, to have less pain, better sleep. So that's why I kind of, was an early adopter for medical cannabis. When the College of Physicians authorized us to prescribe medical cannabis, I thought I would try it to try to relieve some pain and to help some sleep issues with my patients. Then the word got out that I was actually prescribing medical cannabis, so some of my other colleagues here started sending me their patients that they felt could benefit from medical cannabis, but yet weren't comfortable in prescribing cannabis for themselves, for their patients. So then I started prescribing cannabis for my other patients, and then I got experience learning a little bit, dosing, companies, licensed practitioners, licensed producers that would provide the cannabis. So that's how it's been, and I've been able to be privileged to help a lot of people with this. So medical cannabis is effective in patients with IBD for the quality of life issues, such as sleep, chronic pain, and even appetite, stimulating appetite. For the inflammatory component per se, at this point in time, I can't suggest medical cannabis only. So if you're looking for a medical cannabis prescription, remember that it's more for quality of life issues. Please don't stop your standard medications that have been prescribed by your doctor. Always discuss this with your doctor, what your plan is. I do have some patients that want to treat naturally through diet, maybe even some key supplements, but I do watch them closely, and we always have a frank discussion about what is the standard of care, what are the medications available for our patients that do have proven inflammation, such as a CRP, positive endoscopy, positive diagnostic imaging, and stuff like that. It is safe to use medical cannabis for patients with IBD. I do it all the time. I have personally approximately about 50 patients in my own practice and prescribing it for other physicians that do have IBD. Some of them are active, some of them are quiescent or aren't active, but are mostly looking for symptomatic control. So if you are taking medical cannabis for your symptoms with IBD, you can still be on medical cannabis and be taking your medications for your IBD, such as your biologic therapy, your immunomodular therapy, such as methotrexate or Imuran, and also take other medications, such as your cholesterol medications, your high blood pressure medications. So always do this with a physician and a medical, if your physician isn't comfortable prescribing medical cannabis, with your medical cannabis advisor clinic, and take a small dose initially, and go slow and steady as you're going up to make sure there are no interactions, but there are no firm contraindications for patients with IBD to take medical cannabis. So THC and CBD are two different molecules from the same plant. So they are cannabinoids which influence the cannabinoid receptor within your body, which is part of the endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system then modulates lots of things, but including your mood, your sleep, your pain, how do you digest, also the gut motility, and your immune system. So the THC is a stronger molecule that actually occupies the cannabinoid receptor pockets, and THC works with it's better for pain control, it's better for mood, it's better for sleep, but also THC makes you high. And if you take THC, you cannot drive or take any executive decisions such as buying a house, buying a car, getting married, getting divorced while you're on the THC. You need to wait at least 6 hours before you can drive. The CBD doesn't occupy the receptor, it actually changes how the receptor works for your natural molecules, and CBD doesn't make you high. CBD is not as strong as THC for pain control, but it does help with mood, it does help with muscle relaxation, and most of my patients that do take CBD take it during the day, aren't having any high effects, and they do take a little bit of CBD and THC at night to help with pain and sleep. If you take your THC at night and you wait 6 hours, then you can drive the next day and you can have your regular day, the next day. If you've waited an adequate amount of time, the THC has gone down in your system and isn't influencing how you think. So THC better for pain control, for sleep, but it does make you high. CBD doesn't make you high, but isn't as strong of a molecule for pain and sleep. Also, CBD decreases the side effects due to THC. So pure THC isn't a good option for you because you do have some side effects such as paranoia. You can also have some edginess feeling, irritability. So you get the high feeling but also the side effects, and CBD tends to mitigate or decrease THC's side effects. So that's where CBD's power comes in, is to decrease the side effects of the THC. At this current time, before we do more research, we cannot recommend firmly that you should take medical cannabis specifically for inflammation such as active Crohn's disease, a positive biopsy, positive diagnostic imaging, blood tests showing inflammation such as a CRP or fecal calprotectin. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we cannot recommend it until we have further research that proves it. Right now, at this point in time, medical cannabis is more to decrease symptoms associated with IBD, such as lack of appetite, poor sleep, and abdominal pain. So I have a lot of patients asking me if they can stop their immunomodular or biologic therapy or immunosuppressive therapy for their Crohn's and just take the medical cannabis, and at this point in time, honestly, the answer is no. From what the research that we have available right at this point in time, we cannot make any firm recommendations that you can stop your biologic therapy. Mostly what we're doing now is we're continuing the biologics and the immunomodular therapy, and then we're adding on the medical cannabis for quality of life issues such as the sleep, the pain, the appetite, general mood. It is possible to get addicted to medical cannabis, but it is rare and it's much smaller than a lot more other drugs out there that we know of, such as opioids, nicotine, alcohol. So cannabis overuse does exist, and remember that an addiction is more like a behavior that you can't go without. You avoid social situations unless that you have consumption of the drug or whatnot. There's very little data to support this, but there is a few case reports showing that there is an addiction to it, but it's less than things that we already know and already use in society. So what is the best method of consuming the cannabis? In my opinion, I think the oil or capsules, ingesting it is the best way. You can blend the product into edibles such as brownies or a butter or whatnot, but getting consistency of the product is very difficult. And when you take edibles, the effect lasts much longer than what we're used to. If you consume it in an oil base or a capsule, you cannot drive for 6 hours. But if you take it in an edible form, we don't know really how long you can't drive for and how long the effect will be on you. If you smoke it, I think there's a bit of an association with irritation of the lungs, and it does increase phlegm. So there's coughing and respiratory symptoms that are possible. I don't believe in burning anything and then consuming that gas. I don't believe in that, so I don't suggest that to my patients. Vaping is another form of consuming the plant. It's much cheaper than the oils or the drops or the gummy bears, but vaping does have its effects as well, as you're heating an oil at a high temperature. So I usually suggest an oil-based product under the tongue to my patients, but I'm sure that in the future, the licensed producers and the medical cannabis companies are going to formulate products for us, and edibles just became legal in Canada. So therefore, I'm sure that the future is exciting for consumption of these products, but for now, for my patients, I suggest oil under the tongue or capsules or gummy bears. But I do know that some patients consuming it in smoking it or vaporizing simply because of the cost. So currently the system that is in place to get medical cannabis is through a practitioner or a physician. So your physician, I know that in Alberta, the physicians are registered with the College of Physicians as a medical cannabis authorizer. And I'm fairly confident that it's similar to other provinces. But the Health Canada and the College of Physicians of each province wants the physician to have a discussion with their patients and then offer that as an option for their patients' symptoms. Now, not all physicians agree to medical cannabis, are afraid of medical cannabis, aren't an early adopter, don't prescribe because they don't know a lot about it just yet, which I understand. So not all patients can obtain a authorization from their physician. So that's where medical cannabis education clinics come up, and there are physicians in those clinics that assess your medical records, and then they will authorize your prescription with a medical, authorize your medical cannabis, give you an authorization. With that authorization, then you can register with a licensed producer that is a company authorized by the Canadian government to produce the medical cannabis for you. And then once you're registered with one clinic, one authorization equals one company that you're registered with. Then once you're registered, you go online and then you can order, or on the phone, then you can order the products that you want. Each licensed producer has 15 or 20 products that you can order, such as, a blend of THC, CBD, certain types of plants, certain terpenes, which are plant compounds with their components. Do you want it in plant form? Do you want it in bud form, in oil, in capsules, in gummy bears? So then you can order with that company, and then once you've ordered, they will deliver the product to your house. So your option as an IBD patient is to ask and have a discussion with your physician. Your physician will either authorize you through a medical document or send you to a medical education company, medical cannabis company that will authorize the medical cannabis for you there, and then you register with the licensed producer. Medical cannabis is a relatively new entity, and Currently, we do not have any, to my knowledge, we don't have any insurance, we don't have any financial assistance programs that do help patients paying. There are some licensed producers that decrease the cost of the medical cannabis if you can show evidence that you're a low income person. So they ask for Canadian Revenue Agency returns, and if your return was below a certain threshold, the price of medical cannabis for you will be lower. I think in the future, the Blue Cross, the private agencies, and also the government assistance programs will start paying it and using it just like a regular prescription. We're very early in the process. We're still learning which conditions actually this works and which patient would benefit most from. So for now, patients are paying out of pocket for it, and to my knowledge, there are no private or insurance companies, because I have yet to sign an insurance document helping my patients fund their medical cannabis.